this also promotes slavery and furthers it, because not only does it not discourage it, it doesn't remain silent. It expressly allows it and codifies it into law. It is a permissible act.
Probably the shirt that Matt's wearing came from slave labor. Probably his cell phone came from slave labor. Probably the majority of items in his house came from slave labor. Like, I mean, I can understand somebody saying like, well, hey, look, that may be the case. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and limit the amount of things that I purchase that are based on that. But, it's like, are you promoting slavery because you're allowing for those items to come into your home? You're paying your money for them. Are you promoting it? I mean, I don't know. It's just...
You got it. And we'll jump into the next one.
No, I'm the only person in this debate that quoted a single verse that includes slavery.
That's not true. All throughout my opening, I quoted through Galatians. I quoted 1 Corinthians.
Yeah, I wrote them all down, and I looked them all up, and none of them include the Hebrew word or the Greek word that are being used with regard to slavery. Not one of them includes any of those words. It is
not true. Nope, I can prove it right now. I mean, doulos is in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, which I quoted. Doulos is also in Galatians, which I quoted multiple verses there in my slideshow.
Since 7, 18 through 21. Right? 1 Corinthians.
I'll pull it up my interlinear.
Chapter 7.
Let's see.
Verses 18 through 21. And you say that doulos is in there, which is 1404? 1401. Yes, art thou called, being a servant, care not for it, but if thou mayest be made free, use it rather. That is not about slavery. That is about, can you free yourself?
Wait, you said that nothing I quoted had the word slavery in it.
Yeah, I wrote them all down, and I looked them all up, and none of them include the Hebrew word or the Greek word that are being used with regard to slavery. Not one of them. Oh, okay. All right. In that case, I will retract that.
Yahweh, when he said that, but Jacob is my allotted inheritance, right? God's also called the inheritance of the Levites. He says that Jacob's his inheritance. He and so forth. So the word for inheritance there, right? And it's not. So to have somebody passed down as inheritance is to have them be a part of your family. Like I say, just read the articles on households and so forth, right? And see, that's just rhetoric. Like all you have to do is disprove me by an article.
And I say household because our word family, which we usually take to mean the biological family, the father, the mother, the children, maybe the grandchildren, maybe the extended family, but we usually mean by it the immediate, the nuclear family with some extension. That use of the English word family, although it comes from the Latin familia, means something totally different in Latin. The Latin word familia didn't mean that biological kin group. It actually was originally used for the slaves of a household. The slaves and the freed persons of a Roman household were legally the ones who were the familia.
It's debated about what that could possibly mean. Even with the inheritance thing, that could be the household. Dr. Heiser argues that, this thing where it's like you go to the gods and pierce their ear if they want to stay in your household, and then they become part of your family, part of your household, and they actually get inheritance. For example, Abraham, who, when he didn't have an heir, right, an inheritor, he said, God, I don't have a seed. My servant will inherit my things.
But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless? And the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him, This man will not be your heir.
You keep citing references.
This is just rhetoric. This is just rhetoric. This isn't even scholarship. This is just rhetoric. That's all it is.
What are you talking about? This is just rhetoric.
It's just like Vosh said one day on screen. I thought it was funny. This guy was giving all these facts. He's like, look, dude, even if you're right, my rhetoric is so strong that you're just going to lose because my rhetoric is so strong. And
wait, are you suggesting that I'm the one using rhetoric here?
Of course. And so what I'm saying is all of this stuff is hotly debated. And while I can just grant everything and say, okay, even if all this stuff were the case, Christ is saying, like in Matthew chapter 19, that it wasn't that way from the beginning for some of the laws. It's a principle that you can apply. And then you were given it because of the hardness of your heart. You're a barbaric group of people, right? So God used certain laws to, move you forward, right?
Which laws, and how do you know which laws?
Well, that's the point of scripture, right? Is hermeneutics, right?
So no, I asked you a question.
Well,
which
I was
laws and
trying
how
to
do you
answer
know
it
which
too
laws?
when you interrupted me. I was in the middle of my answer.
Well, I'm sorry. You just
it's
got done
called
talking for a
hermeneutics,
long
and
time, and
that's
I
fine,
thought it
but
would
if
be
you ask me a
relevant to have a
question-
discussion point.
That's fine. Well, if you want to, give some points, that's fine. But if you ask me your question in return, then all I can do is respond, right? And so what I would say is hermeneutics, right? Like if you find something that all throughout the Old Testament, scholars agree that, it's being talked of as like the worst thing, that you can have done to you. And then you get to the New Testament and you have things like the list in, Timothy, where it says, list all these people, liars, thieves, and then it mentions slave traders, right? And when you get to Philemon, Paul's telling, him to take his slave back, no longer as a slave, but as a brother. You get to Paul's letters, no difference between Jew and Greek. He's talking about the laws. This is a yoke on us. It's a burden to us. If you're a slave to the law, sin. If you're you're a slave to your sin, right? If you sin, you're a slave to your sin. Like it's being used in every case as a negative, but you're saying, well, it promotes it as a good thing.
I didn't say promotes is a good thing.
Well, what does promote mean if it's not?
Promote means to further, to advocate, to endorse, to sanction. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that it was necessarily ever declared to be a moral good. What I'm saying is that not only did it not prohibit it, but it took steps that allowed it to continue and encouraged it.
Would you advocate for something that wasn't good? I mean, even if you say promote is advocation.
You're advocating for the Bible continuing to advocate for slavery because you think it's too much for God to outlaw it.
No, I think that it has been outlawed. That's the opposite.
This also promotes slavery and furthers it because not only does it not discourage it, it doesn't remain silent. It expressly allows it and codifies it into law. It is a permissible act.
Probably the shirt that Matt's wearing came from slave labor. Probably his cell phone came from slave labor. Probably the majority of items in his house came from slave labor. Like, I mean, I can understand somebody saying like, well, hey, look, that may be the case. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and limit the amount of things that I purchase that are based on that. But, it's like, are you promoting slavery because you're allowing for those items to come into your home? You're paying your money for them. Are you promoting it? I mean, I don't know. It's just...
You got it. And we'll jump into the next one.